Turning our attention now to the ASX. Here's Matt Birney and Bulls and Bears with the latest public company views and interviews.
Welcome to the Bulls and Bears Small Cap Wrap, where we break down the latest ASX announcements from public companies that are doing interesting things. Today's Small Cap Wrap is brought to you by biotech company Cynata Therapeutics, ASX code CYP. I'm Matt Birney and I'm joined now on 6PR by the Managing Director of Cynata, Dr. Ross Macdonald. Well, hi Ross.
Good morning, Matt. How are you?
Good, thank you. Well, Cynata has been rapidly developing a portfolio of drugs developed from stem cell work done by the University of Wisconsin. Just one of those drugs is known as CYP-001, and it's designed to treat an awful disease known as graft versus host disease, or GVHD, that regularly afflicts leukemia sufferers after a bone marrow transplant, and sadly it is usually fatal for those that get it. Firstly, how does this disease come to pass for those that are unlucky enough to get it?
It occurs in patients who have bone marrow transplant as part of their treatment for cancer. And unfortunately, in these patients that succumb to GVHD, it's a result of that bone marrow reacting against the patient and causing a range of very serious pathologies.
Of those people that get the disease, how many generally die from it and how is it normally treated?
Well, the death rate, unfortunately, is very high, and typically you'd only expect to see around about 20% survival over 2 years. Treatment is corticosteroids primarily, but if the patients don't respond to that drug, then there is really no other alternative for them.
Big news out this week. Cynata announced the results of a 2-year trial of its CYP-001 drug on a cohort of patients afflicted with GVHD. What were the key outcomes and learnings from that trial?
Primary objective was to demonstrate safety, but because this study was done in patients with the disease, we also investigated the potential efficacy of the product there, that is, whether it works. And that was highly successful, with 60% of the patients still alive at the completion of that follow-up.
Now, I know you're not advertising the product for sale yet, but how do you plan to get the drug to market?
We've partnered it with a global pharmaceutical company called Fujifilm, and Fuji are now taking it forward into further clinical development, and then ultimately, if it's successful in those further trials, then they'll start commercialising the product around the world, resulting in payments to us of more than $100 million. They've already paid a significant sum to us in upfront and milestone fees, took a major chunk of the company in equity at a premium a few years back, and so they'll be funding all of the further development of that product to bring it to market for these patients with very, very great unmet medical need.
Ross Macdonald from Cynata Therapeutics, thanks very much for joining me on the Small Cap Wrap. And just remember, Bulls and Bears is only here to give you information, not advice, which you should of course seek independently. I'm Matt Birney. Thanks for listening to the Bulls and Bears Small Cap Wrap.
For more public company CEO interviews, go to the Money page at 6pr.com.au and click the Public Companies tab.